This is Julie Pearson, Little Thunder. Today is February 8th, 2011. I'm interviewing Gary Montgomery for the Oklahoma Native Artists Project, sponsored by the Oklahoma Oral Histories Research Program at Oklahoma State University. We're at the home of one of your collectors, Gary, Nancy Hughes, one of your strong supporters over the years. You were born in Seminole, Oklahoma. Did you live in town or outside of town?
Outside of town.
And what was it like growing up in that part of Oklahoma?
I loved every minute of it. Actually, I guess I really can't remember that far back. Anyway, yeah, we lived out in the country, and we were kind of farmers, ranchers type people. And I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents raised chickens, hogs, cattle, horses. Anything to get the gander, so to speak, you know. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wondered if you had horses and rode horses, because they're so important in your pictures.
Oh yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, I was given a horse, a black stallion by the name of Brocky when I was they're very small, and I loved horses. You know.
Yeah, he was your good friend, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did you ever compete horseback riding?
No. I did. Actually,
no rodeo
I never got to do much of anything with the horses, actually, because when I was very young, my grandparents passed away, and I had to go to boarding school at a very young age. As a matter of fact, that's about 8 years old, and from there, that point on. The ranch situation ceased to exist because of the death of my grandparents. So,
right.
Yeah. So.
Sorry. Did you? That must have been such an abrupt.
Yeah, it was a big change, so to speak. But I don't know what it is. But Native Americans have a way of adapting, you know what I mean? It didn't make a difference what situation you're in. You learn how to adapt and you adjust, and or it's bye-bye. So yeah, I was young. I was sent to a boarding school because my grandparents passed away, and my mom was just remarried, and she didn't have the wherewithal to support another child, and off to boarding school I went. So
Was it Eufaula, or where'd you go?
no, I went to Jones Academy down in Hartsville.
Right.
So it was
Brothers and sisters?
No, I was the only one. My brothers they didn't have to go. Like I said, they stayed with my mom and stepdad, and they raised them, and I was the only one who had to go to boarding school. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was after the first couple of weeks, you kind of miss your parents and your grandparents, and you don't know what to think, But period of adjustment, you start going with the flow, and you're young enough now that at that age that you just, adapt, and that's it. So.
And you were raised speaking your language at home, so probably at Jones that was not such a hard transition because of the fact that it was in other
being
Indian
raised
kids
by
there.
your grandparents, that's all they spoke was Seminole, And when I started elementary school, I didn't know how to speak English whatsoever. So, but I went to elementary school at Strother Elementary for the first couple of years, and I learned how to speak English. So by the time I did go to Jones Academy, I knew how to speak English fluently. So,
were you exposed to any art classes in elementary school?
Not really, but when I was growing up, my mom's brother was a commercial artist in Tulsa, And he was always bringing me paper and pencils and coloring books and all kinds of things like that to get me started. And actually, I started doing paintings on the mall walls, at a very young age. So anyway, yeah.
Sounds like an artist.
My mom didn't appreciate that too much, but so yeah.
Were your grandparents supportive of your drawing? Did they know you liked to draw? And
I can't really say because I can't. I was always out messing with the horses and doing other things. I didn't really sit down and draw or paint then. It was only after they passed away that I began living with my mom. That my brother started coming down. I mean, not my brother.
Your uncle.
My uncle started coming down, and that's when he started bringing me.
That's when you discovered the spark.
That's when I started getting crayons, and much to the chagrin of my mom, So.
So at Jones Academy, did you did they offer art classes?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I won my first award when I was in 4th grade. And it was a fireman's fundraising thing, and fireman's, I don't know what you call it, they had a little art contest, elementary school, and I won what I would say a grand award for my age group.
Great.
So, yeah. So, it was good. Yeah, that's the first time I ever got associated with winning competitions. So.
And a good feeling.
Yeah, it was a good
for
feeling.
You.
Yeah. I think I won $5 and a trip to the theater.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
And $5 is that's pretty good at that age.
That was a lot of candy bars.
So did you attend Jones through high school then?
No, as a matter of fact, I went from the 3rd grade to the 8th grade. And when I went through the 8th grade, I asked my mother if I could come back and go to school at Strother. And she said, yeah. So I said, we'll set another place at the table. And put another nail in the wall. So yeah, that's when I started school at Strother, and I had already been playing basketball and football at Jones Academy, but I kind of hated leaving football because Strother didn't have a football program.
Oh.
But they had basketball and baseball, so yeah. I was always kind of an athlete anyway. I was, whether it was running through the forest, running through the woods chasing chickens or whatever it was. Chasing chickens for my supper is what it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So yeah, and you got pretty involved with baseball, right? Pretty seriously.
Yeah. I graduated. I wasn't all-state or anything. When you're Class D high school, all the all-staters come from big schools.
Right.
And they hardly ever, notice small school athletes. But when I went to Murray, I played Galilee High School, and I was always involved in summer league baseball, and people always told me that I had ability to play, but you don't know until you actually get into bigger competition,
Right.
And when I went to Murray State College, I just went out because I enjoyed playing sports, and I didn't know if I could make the team or what, but I did. And actually, the person who really got me started thinking that I could, play baseball, at a college was Gene, God, I forgot his name, man. he coached at OBU for a long time there. He coached baseball and basketball for a while. Golly, I forgot his name. See, that's what happens when you get old. But anyway, yeah, he's the one that got me started thinking that I could compete. And when I went to Murray, I went out and compete. Went out for the baseball program down there, and I made the team. And I wanted to play at a bigger school, so I transferred after my freshman year to A Central, and I started playing baseball for. There's another coach that I forgot to. But yeah, I went to East Central and played baseball there too. Yeah,
so that's did you take art classes while you were at East Central?
Yeah. I started taking art classes when I was at Murray.
Okay, and, so you kind of kept those two things going simultaneously.
Oh yeah, golly.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was always in the back room, drawing and doodling around, and teacher would say, "Hey Gary, what's going on?" Huh?
Did you get recruited to do student posters or anything like that? Sometimes.
I was always getting picked on. Yeah, that's that. If anything came up, something had to be done. Gary can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go get Gary. Instead of like Mikey. So Gary can draw. So yeah, I was always getting picked on. So yeah, but it was an experience. I loved it. Yeah.
So when you were actually at college, either at Murray or East Central, were you exploring Indian subject matter in your art classes at all, or?
I was always interested in doing courses and Indian subject matter, but when you're at a university, they more or less stress abstractionism, and I stuck with it because I was going to school and you had to do it,
Right.
And but the minute I got out, I was always dabbling in Indian art, that kind of thing. And,
so they didn't even stress figure drawing or anything very strongly.
Yeah, when I was at Murray, I had a teacher there that. His name was Larry Milligan, and he stressed figure drawing and that kind of thing. And I think I learned more from him than I did through my whole college career. Because he had to do what you wanted to do.
Right.
Instead of turning on a projector and blurring the image on the wall or on the screen. And saying, do something with that, and then leaving the room, which is what DJ LaFon did half the time. Mm-hmm. And when you don't want to do that kind of thing, he calls you into his office and said, "Hey, what's the problem here?" And then you quietly tell him, "I came here to be instructed, not for the instructor to leave the room and just leave me hanging." So, we didn't get along too well.
Right. So when did you start exhibiting, I guess, at Indian art shows, and when did you sort of make that decision you were going to try doing that full time? Did you get there right away, or did you find your way there?
I didn't even know that you could make a living as an artist. I didn't even know that they had competitions, at art shows. When Linda and I got out of college, I went to work at Texas Instruments in Texas, Dallas, Texas, and I kind of got tired of the faster pace, so to speak, being a country boy. After about a year or two, we moved back, and that's when I met Doris and Bob McCabe and Kelly Haney's dad,
Woodrow.
Haney, and those are the ones that encouraged me and got me started to competing and doing Indian art for a living, you know. And so, you know, kind of I jumped into it, both feet, and never looked back, you know. Occasionally, sometimes I'll think back and say, wow, I wish I could have stayed at TI. I could have been getting a paycheck, you know. So, but anyway, yeah. But it's been good.
Did you move back to Oklahoma City, or did you move back to Seminole?
I went back to Seminole.
Okay.
So we had a little piece of property in Seminole, and moved in with my stepdad and the brothers, and Linda and I wanted to move back. Actually, I moved us back without. Didn't really ask her, you know.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I got in trouble with that. So, but anyway, yeah. Yeah.
Well, how did you first meet Doris and Bob? Did you check out what they were showing, or did you bring some of your paintings? What was the first couple encounters like?
No, I think somebody told them about me because they came down to the house, to my house. I remember what happened. I used to sell some small little originals to Barry's Waffle House in Weewolk, Oklahoma. And the owner of the Barry's Waffle House was Jim Chaddick. And he was very familiar with Doris Luttrell and Bob McCabe, and he's the one that turned me on to them, and they started buying my work and entering me in competitions, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's how I got started.
Great.
Yeah.
And they also made a couple trips to the house. And
Yeah.
did they have, you know, sometimes gallery owners or collectors will have a kind of impact on the kinds of things that you explore or think about doing because they respond strongly to certain images, or?
Yeah, like I said, you know, they didn't have a gallery at the time. Doris and Bob didn't, but they traveled a lot. They were always traveling out to the Herd Museum in Arizona, and they did a lot of correspondence and work with a lot of galleries out that way, and in Texas and Colorado, and back then they used to travel all over the United States doing art shows. And I can truly actually say that I won awards from New Jersey to California without ever actually being there, you know.
I was wondering if they entered your work in competitive shows.
Yeah.
Great.
And I've never been to New Jersey, but I won awards there. You know?
So who were some of the early artists that were also showing with you around that time? When did you start? I guess did you do any mall shows with some of the?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did one mall show, and it wasn't very successful. It was in Greenville Mall in Mississippi, and the person who put it on lived in Memphis, and we traveled there, and we made the little trip down to Greenville, Mississippi, and you know.
Did Linda go with you?
Yeah. We didn't have any kids then, and you know, we a lot of times we just picked up and, you know, took off. You know. But
and were there some other Indian artists there at the show? Or?
Not then. I was the only Indian artist there, and like I said, if it had been maybe a group showing or something like that, it might have been a little bit more of a response. But I was the only one there, and there wasn't very much of an advertisement situation, and a lot of mall shows can be very deflating to your ego, you know.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, we've done a few of those. So, were you entering shows like the Philbrook Annual or the
Yeah, like
Anadarko
I said,
Indian Fair?
Doris got me into a lot of these shows. She got me into Philbrook, and I think back then Gilcrease had a few shows there too. And I painted in oils, and the first couple of tries, Gilcrease wouldn't even look at my work because I didn't do flat work, you know.
I was wondering
Yeah,
how
I did
your
a lot
work was
of,
received because it was more realistic.
Yeah, I did a lot of more realistic work. And when I first started out, with a name like Montgomery, people didn't think I was Native American, you know. Anyway, yeah. So it's kind of difficult at times. But, we got past that.
So you're right, both the name, they're assuming,
Yeah,
making an assumption based on your name.
A lot of times I would go to an art show, being my first time at this particular art show, wherever, you know, with a name like Montgomery, people say, they got another white guy in here, you know. Anyway.
But they were also making assumptions about your style, right? Because it was kind of Western looking.
Yeah, it was Western themes and Western type art, and it was kind of a process getting people to know who I was, and that I was Native American, and that you know, it was a process. So.
What was your style like early on when Doris and Bob were? How was it?
I did a lot of plain background work, just images, kind of illustrator work, you know. I just did, in a sense, I was trying to emulate a lot of people like Blackbeard Bosun, you know, what they were doing, but you know, I didn't put anything in the background. You know, it was just
so it was solid, kind of white, negative
white,
space.
Or I did a lot of work on poster board, not poster board, but mat board, and I just left you know, painted the image and left it
right, the background was
blank,
and the foreground was kind of filled in.
With a few rocks in the foreground, that was it. So.
Were there any Indian artists that, you know, eventually when you were going to shows, hanging out with the other Indian artists, did you get any business tips or any, did you trade any technical?
No. Then what, I guess, which is probably my fault, I always try to project an image of, this ain't my first time, you know what I mean? I always try to project that I was already, you know, had something going on, even when I didn't, you know, even when, you know, you had to hot something to, you know, get to the show, you know, but, you know, always, you know, I don't know what it is. It's just, you just had to project something, you know.
Right.
That you were halfway successful.
And experienced,
yeah,
right. Yeah. Very experienced and have been doing this a long time. You know, Paladine Roy and Donald Van kind of had a realism going with these fully developed landscapes, I think, at that time. I just wondered if you were you looking at any other artists' work and kind of thinking, I'd like to try that, or no, I'm not going to do that, but...
I thought about it, but I was more interested in, you know, the Western art scene than I was Native American process, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just stayed with that, and I did a lot of oil paintings, and I did go through a period where I did a lot of watercolor, and the watercolor just didn't give me the, as Bob McCabe used to say, didn't give you the do that you know I wanted. You know, the softness of the edges and that kind of thing. You know, so oil painting always came back to oils. You know, I might try something for a while, but if I didn't like it, I just, you know, oil paintings were my thing, and I just, you know, always came back to oils. So.
And had you been working with those quite a bit in college, were you, or is that something?
As a matter of fact, when I was at Murray, I started working in oils back then. You know, I got introduced to oil paints, and I've been kind of dabbling, and I started dabbling in it. And when you first start painting in oils, you know, you just kind of have to learn the process. You know, from dark to lights. You know, instead of you know, acrylic or watercolor, you have to go from light to dark. You know, and I made a lot of mistakes, but you know, I finally got the hang of it, and I don't know if I will ever, you know, get the full hang of it, but you know, I'm still learning, you know, so.
You know, going back to that idea of being interested in Western art, and of course, you know, first cowboys were Indian cowboys, really. Was that, do you think it was from growing up, you know, rural environment, and was it just an interest that you had in depicting
I just
Western lifestyles? Or?
I don't know what it was. There wasn't anything specific that turned me on to you know, doing Western art or anything, except just being around horses, and I just love horses.
Mm-hmm,
you know,
mm-hmm. You can feel that in your work.
Yeah, I try to get the muscles right, and I see a lot of paint artists who don't get the musculature right, you know. And you know, if you're a horseman, people can tell.
Right.
You know? So yeah. So yeah.
What was one of the most unexpected experiences you had at a show or with a gallery owner?
I think one of the first art shows that I had or didn't have, Doris introduced me to a lady from Wichita, Kansas one time. I'm not going to say names or anything, our galleries, but I think she was just getting started in the gallery owner business too, you know. And there was a process of, you know, both of us learning, but she asked me to do a one-man show for her, and she only gave me 1 month to get ready for it, you know. And
and you were painting in oils.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we didn't. The show didn't happen. You know, so.
Wow.
And you know, she was slightly perturbed at me, and I was, you know, because you know, I you know. A month is not enough time.
Right.
So, you know. Anyway.
So
we
you
both learned together. So.
Exactly. So you met your wife Linda in high school, I guess, or college. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We met at East Central.
Right.
Yeah.
What kinds of things? What kind of role has she played in your career?
Golly. Critic. Supporter, being there to pat me on the back, being there to tell me what I was doing wrong, just being there for me when I needed. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't ask for, you know, somebody better than that to support you, or you know, to. When I say support, I'm talking about, you know, more ways than one. So, yeah, when you jump into art with both feet, a lot of times there's a lot of situations where it's beans and rice, and you know, biscuits and gravy, you know.
Right.
So yeah, and she was the only one working at times, and
That helps.
She's been there for me,
Yes.
and vice versa, and we're still together. So.
I remember you were an early member, I think, of the American Indian and Cowboy Artists Association, or
Wanted to be a member of the Cowboy Artists Association. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I always thought there was a little bit of prejudicial situations going there, you know, at times. And, you know, being Cowboy Artist Association is, you know, exactly what that meant, you know.
Mm.
And
One color cowboy.
yeah. So yeah, but I still have aspirations. You know, I have one original that was donated by Mrs. Nancy Hughes to the Cowboy. They came and asked if we would be interested in donating, and she asked me if which one I would, you know, like to have donated to the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
And so. As a matter of fact, there's a hole in the wall that she keeps reminding me of that I need to.
That one went to the.
Yeah,
I think it's
the one
now the
that went
Western
to the, yeah.
and Cowboy Heritage
Yeah.
Museum. Yeah, because I remember in the 80s there was sort of a move on the part of some different, you know, there was even an American Indian Cowboy Artists Association that did the San Dimas show. There was a move on the part of these associations to include Indian artists, but as you say, sometimes it didn't feel like they were treating their Indian artists
I was part of the
same.
that scene too for a couple of years. The San Dimas Native American Art Show. I mean, what was it? American Indian and Cowboy Artists Association.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of times I wish I had stuck with it, but I got frustrated early with some things that, you know, happened, you know, went on, and a lot of times you don't have the patience to, you know, see things through, or, you know, overlook some situations, and maybe they're the people that were involved, you know, didn't know, you know. And we both make mistakes, you know, and, you know, so.
Right. Do you remember how the Indian art landscape kind of changed, well, say from the 80s to the 90s?
There was a lot of prejudice going on back then. You know, I remember one time my friends and I went to Crow Fair, Montana, you know, and we hitchhiked from Casper to Montana, and we spent the weekend there. And hitchhiking up there wasn't bad. Getting out of there was. And I remember standing on the side of the road, and some cowboys would come by, try to run you over, just because you were Native American. You know? And that was not too long after the Wounded Knee situation.
Oh,
and
okay.
There was a lot of animosity there.
Right.
You know? So, but.
And you were going to Crow Fair just to go to Crow Fair for the powwow?
We're just going to go to the powwow, you know. And turned out to be an experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway.
In terms of just, you know, the popularity of Indian art, I guess, here in Oklahoma and regionally too, it sort of you know, that mid-'80s were a good time when people were really selling and things.
It was
and then
good
it sort of,
back then. Yeah.
yeah, and then it sort of changed. I'm wondering.
I think everything was good up to you know, back at about 1984 when the oil, you know, bottom of the oil business dropped out,
Right.
and it, you know, it. You're making good money, all of a sudden, boom, you know, the bottom drops out, you know, and what do you do, you know? It's kind of like starting all over again, you know what I mean?
Did you change your painting strategies a bit, or your business strategies?
No, I've always been kind of a, well, let's put it this way. I've never had a business strategy. I'm one of those guys that you got to kick his teeth in to get him to, you know, I've never, maybe I'm just done, I don't know. But
Well,
I
you
just
focused on the
do
painting.
things, I just do things a certain way, and hopefully that, you know, will get me through. And Bob McCabe told me something one time, a long time ago. He said, you know, art's going to change, and it always has, but things come around. And only the good artists are going to survive. And always try to you know, be a good artist, you know,
Right.
and do things the right way, you know. So.
Right. Some of your trademark images are plains images. How did you first get interested in plains
Cowboys
culture?
and Indians.
Those
John
old
Wayne,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Quinn playing Native Americans, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't Native American, but what the heck, you know. You grew up, you know, watching, you know, Native Americans on TV, and you knew things weren't right, and you tried to portray it the right way, and try to tell people, you know, that this is the way it was, or how it was and is, you know. I still try to do that, you know. I haven't changed at all in that concern. I
So
don't know, you
just
still
trying to
see-
show segments of Plains Indian life that you wouldn't see.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask me why I don't, you know, paint my Seminole heritage more, or the Eastern, you know, Eastern Indians more.
Mm-hmm.
Because there wasn't any money in it. Bottom line, you know, it's not that I didn't want to. You had to eat, you had a family to support, and you did what, you know, sold, you know, and that was it. So.
But you have painted Seminole paintings and Creek paintings. How much of your work do you think has been devoted to those images?
Golly, I probably wouldn't even say 10%.
Mm.
But a lot of my paintings aren't, you know, really Western or Eastern. A lot of times I like to just paint a portrait, show a Native American face, you know, and show the emotion rather than the tribal history or anything that, you know. A lot of people used to say that, you know, I paint portraits, you know, as well as anyone, but, you know, a lot of times, you know, if I could paint the Seminole lifestyle, because, you know, a lot of people didn't know about the eastern peoples, you know, the from the eastern northern eastern seaboard all the way down to, you know, the Seminole in Florida.
Right.
And the only person that they associated with was the Cherokee. You know, I hate to say this, but you know, a lot of people say, "Hey, you know, my grandmother was a, you know, Cherokee princess," and that, you know. But you know, when you hear about the Trail of Tears, it wasn't only the Cherokees that went through the Trail of Tears. You know, all of the eastern seaboard people went through it. You know, I'm not talking about. We're talking about Cherokees, Choctaws, Chickasaw, Seminole, Creeks. They just traveled further. So anyway, yeah.
Right. So you're interested in catching that humanity, basically,
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than sometimes something tribally specific. You're a master artist of the Five Tribes Museum. How did you feel when you received that title? What did that mean to you?
I was elated. I didn't actually know what master artist meant, you know, but and there's no way in the world that I could live up to being a master artist. You know, you can only try. But there's a lot of you know, people there that are associated before me, who were associated with being master artists of you know, 5 civilized tribes, and I was included in good company, and that, you know, that was you know, a feather in my hat, you know, and I just tried to, you know, live up to, you know, the standards that they set, you know. So
You went to both France and Japan, I read, with exhibits of your work. Is that right?
I didn't go.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't make that
No.
Franco-American trip either.
No. As a matter of fact, people never, you know, told me that they were going. They just, you know, took my work.
You just took your work.
They just took my work. That was great. That was good.
Yes,
you know?
it is. It's nice to.
Yeah. It's nice to be included.
Right.
Yeah.
What's been one of the most fun places that you've gone with your work?
The fun places?
Yeah, one of the most memorable places maybe that you've traveled.
I really enjoyed going out to San Diego, California. That was you know what I remember most about that?
What?
The size of the strawberries out there.
Oh.
I mean, they had the biggest strawberries.
Yes.
They would put on this banquet, you know, for the artists and the patrons, and it was a meal to die for. But the thing I remember about it was the strawberries. They had the biggest strawberries, man. I mean, it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
In 1990, the Indian Arts and Crafts Act was passed, and it required artists to provide proof of enrollment or be certified by their tribes as artists. Do you remember with that heritage, do you remember the impact of that bill on galleries or individual artists?
You know, being truthful with you, I never gave it much thought. Because I was already doing what, you know, I was doing, and I was Native American. Other than the fact that having the name Montgomery, I had to, you know, prove myself. I mean, not prove myself, but prove my heritage. But other than that, you know, I never gave it a thought. And I'm sure that people would probably find fault with that. But I never tried to be, how do you say it, politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
I just did what I did, you know, and let people judge me for my art, not, you know, that was it. You know?
You were one of the 500, I guess, national artists who entered the design for that Trail of Painted Ponies.
Oh, yeah.
And what interested you? Well, we know what interested you in that project. It was the fact
Yeah.
that you love horses. What design did you paint on your horse?
I tried to paint a paint
Ah,
with the Indian images in the paint. You know, a paint horse has got spots in it.
right.
Whether it's a white horse with you know, brown spots, or a brown horse with white spots. You know, but within the spots, I tried to incorporate Native American images you know, throughout the horse, and that was fun doing. Yeah, enjoyed that.
What do you think in terms of tribal support for the arts now? Are you seeing more of that? Do you think we're getting to a point where tribes are actually getting behind their artists more and being more supportive?
I really can't see it. You know, maybe it's just me, but I've seen more tribes going through the casino phase than I've actually,
That's had an impact in some ways if they
Yeah.
buy art from the artist, but that's not always the case.
but I've never had, a casino approach me and, want me to do
Mm,
a specific mural or, anything like that.
right.
And I think it would be fun monetary wise, but then again, I don't know if I would, like my paintings hanging in a casino anyway, you know. I'm a Christian, and I just don't think that, would be appropriate for me, so.
In 2010, you won a grand award for at Red Earth for your painting Eagle Dog, and we're going to see that in a minute at the end of the interview. But I noticed, in addition to the kind of realism that characterizes your style, there's kind of this impressionistic eagle in the background, just real sketchy. Is this a direction that you're going to be exploring more, or just something that seemed right for that painting?
It was just just something that seemed right for that painting, because I originally had something entirely different in mind when I started the painting, and it just kind of evolved into a mystic scene in the background, the spiritual aspect of it, and it turned out well.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
You work in both oils and acrylics, and we've talked about that a little bit. Do you do pastels or charcoals at all for any of your portraits?
Way back when, I dabbled in charcoals, I dabbled in pastels. Like I said, at one time I dabbled in a little bit of everything, just to whatever got the goose, so to speak.
Right, try things out. You mentioned the importance of kind of capturing that, capturing emotion for you in your paintings. Do you have a story in mind sometimes that leads you into that emotion, or do you just sort of know the emotional attitude, I guess, of the person that you're?
Oh, I really can't say that it was a particular instance or whatever that leads me into doing what I do. I just, I just enjoy capturing, whether it's a small child or, an elder. I just like to show emotion in the faces.
Right.
And, Native Americans, they always have a a spiritual aspect in whatever they do, in everything they do, you know. And I try to show that emotion in the things that I do.
And eyes are a really important part of that, and I understand they're hard to paint.
Like I always say, you know, windows. I mean, the eyes are windows to the soul. You know, so yeah. If I don't get the nose right, I gotta get the eyes right. You know, so. But anyway, yeah.
So does one come before the other, or just?
No. But anyway, yeah. I just, you know, I don't try to put any one aspect before the other. I just, you know, try to capture emotions in the facial expressions that I, you know, paint. You know, so
Right.
yeah.
Have you ever used family members as models?
Many times. As a matter of fact, just about everybody has got shown in one painting or another. You know, so yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Whether it's my brothers, aunts, uncles, yeah, just about everybody's been there. So.
Do you work from photographs as well?
I do, but only reference only. You know, they might, you know, like they might give me a particular image that I want to, you know, portray, but like I said, it's only reference only. You know, make sure that I get everything right. Yeah.
So no overhead projector. You don't use,
No. Golly, to me, that's a no-no. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that do that, but where's the art involved? You know, to do something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh golly.
How about props in your studio? Do you collect things like drums or rattles? Do you have?
I try to, but I don't know. I've never been, you know, financially sound enough to, you know, go buy that kind of stuff. I say stuff, you know, to go buy and, you know, it's not that I don't want to, it's just that, you know,
Right.
I've never been financially sound enough to go buy, you know, those artifacts and things like that, you know, so. And a lot of times I just go buy magazines and books and do a lot of research, you know, what I need, you know, so.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of artists do that.
Yeah.
So, in terms of kind of getting at these, the humanity of people and maybe making it a sort of intertribal, accessing a kind of intertribal image, is that like your use of feathers and staffs and blankets or things? You're choosing things carefully because they have weight. They carry a lot of different tribes.
You know, like I said, every aspect of a Native American's life is, you know, not only emotion, but their emotion plays on their spiritual aspect, you know. And I try to portray that spiritual aspect in a lot of my paintings, and whether it's a spirit or whether it's a pipe, or you know, carrying a buffalo robe with you know, all the images of past you know, exploits on the buffalo robe, or you know, just different situations. If I don't have it, I'll go and find it, so that I can put into, you know, one of my paintings. So yeah, I'm always looking for you know, different things like that that I can use. Yeah.
Research is real
Yeah.
time consuming too, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of times when I was younger, and as a matter of fact, not that so long ago, I used to spend a heck of a lot of time, you know, drinking beer and beer joints. But you know what my favorite place to be is now? Barnes and Noble.
You're not alone there. How do you think your style has changed over the years then?
Hopefully for the better. You know, when you first start out, you do things that only, you know how to do at, one particular time. But as you evolve as an artist, you go through different aspects and different periods. And you're trying not to change your style, but without knowing it, you do because of the experience you gain.
Right,
And
refining.
Yeah, refining your and honing your skills. So yeah.
What is your creative process, beginning with how you get your ideas?
It all starts with a face, believe it or not.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it all starts with the face. And trying to see what I can, do to surround it, whether it's animal totems, bears, eagles, wolves. Like I said, the Native American, their spirituality had all of these animal totems in their spirituality. Whether it be a wolf, bear. A lot of times they would try to emulate, the images of these animals. The cunning of a wolf. A lot of times, sometimes a warrior would carry a shield, and he would have a little totem of a kingfisher, or not an eagle, or it all comes down to the spirituality, and emulating the spirit of that particular animal or bird, or a lot of times I include eagles in my paintings because a lot of Native Americans believe that because the eagle flew so high, he was a messenger of the Great Spirit, and that kind of thing. So I don't think a guy could explain verbally everything that he feels, but hopefully some of my images, can capture what I can't explain, by word of mouth, so to speak, so.
Right.
Yeah.
That picture's worth 1,000 words
Yeah.
there. Looking back on your career, what was one fork in the road that seems especially meaningful to you now?
When I stopped drinking. I started drinking when I was a senior in college. And a lot of people don't think that, to put it down, just, I was a drunk, and I don't know how I survived as an artist in all these years. But yeah, when I quit drinking, that was a new revelation in my life. That was it took a stint in the prison system, but I think today I'm a better guy for it, and also a better artist. But
was your art something that you could hold on to along with that spirituality?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, they sent you to different camps, in the prison system, and everywhere I went, people knew who I was. because of how do you say it? I hate to say fame, but my as an artist, and when I first settled down and I went to a camp in Antlers, Oklahoma, and I stayed there for about, I don't know, 7, 8 months. And a lady, the librarian there, knew who I was, and she fixed a room up for me, complete with television, big table, and said, "This is for you. All you have to do is come in here and paint."
Wow.
I mean, didn't cost me anything. She didn't ask me for anything. She just provided that situation for me, that scenario for me, and I couldn't have been more grateful to anybody. Yeah, that's great.
Wonderful. What has been one of the highlights of your career?
When granted, Red Earth.
Yes, that is.
I don't know. I've had so many, nice paintings that I thought should have, got something at Red Earth, but you don't get anything. You know what I mean? And it's not only just depending on who the judges are, and what they'd like, and what sometimes, there's a couple of times when I thought I had a couple of really, really, really super nice pieces. But guess who was the judge? It was a sculptor. Anyway, yeah, and that's the way it goes. And it's not that, I was completely devoid of, winning anything at Red Earth. It's just that I wanted, the grand, and
right.
God blessed me with, getting there.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
That was
that was awesome.
well deserved. Yeah. So what would you tell a young person who wanted to pursue a career in Indian art today?
Don't go. No, I'm just kidding. No. To be truthful about it, don't force it. Do what you feel. Do everything you can to be the best that you can be. I think that's probably basic. If it's gonna come, it's gonna come. If if it ain't, it ain't. That's about it. Whatever you do, be sincere about it.
You have to love it to stick with it, don't you?
Yeah. Goodness. If you didn't love it, I don't know where I would be.
Well,
hard times, bad times, just having art there as a, brings peace of mind, Doesn't make any difference whether you sell it or not, just being able to do it. What can I say? I think I've been blessed.
Well, we're glad you have stuck with it, Gary.
Me too. Yeah.
We're going to take a look at a couple of your paintings here. Gary, I'd like you to tell us about this painting first. In terms of titles, I guess that's something we didn't talk about. Do you title all your paintings?
I sometimes do. I mean, I always do, but I don't remember the title of this one. I did it so long ago. But I do remember the image. The image I was trying to portray is the look and the emotion of the faces as they were removed from their homeland to Oklahoma. And
these are Seminole people.
Not knowing what to do. Just a total of being kind of lost.
Yeah,
And you know, that's I think that kind of says it all right there.
it does. I was even thinking the choice of the short grass, you know,
Yeah.
as opposed to, you know, coming from places with swamps and
Alligators.
yeah. But that look of disorientation, the big change in geography. All right.
No, as a matter of fact, I was getting ready to do a painting of Seminoles in Florida, and I was going to do an Indian, Seminole relaxing with alligator boots on. You know?
And would you like to tell us about this painting?
This painting was the painting that won the Grand Award at Red Earth 2010, and this image is probably something that had something completely different in mind, but it just evolved into what you see. And you know, I hate to say this, but when it won the award, wasn't finished. And the thing about it is, I don't think anybody noticed, because everybody was focused on the face and the upper torso. And I'm not saying anything about, you know, just a lot of times, you know, you go through a painting and you try to do it quickly and spontaneously, and there are sometimes some things when you know it's missing something, but it doesn't really gel until later. And this is one of those paintings. And the eagle that you see in the shield didn't come about until I was laying on a bed in a motel in North Carolina, Cherokee, North Carolina. And I never, you know, had tried to put an image on the shield, but I couldn't come up with an image. And I tried to paint something else on it, and it didn't work. And I put turpentine on a rag in turpentine, and I tried to wipe it completely off. And I thought I had, and I went back and lay down, and this image just popped in my head. You know, it was just something that was meant to be. You know, just I think only a Native American probably you know knows what I'm talking about, or an artist knows what I'm talking about. Things that you know just happen accidentally. You know, and that was and I think that made the whole painting.
It does. It looks so dimensional.
Yeah.
The eagle looks like it's coming through the shield. So are you going to finish it?
Well, it's finished now, but
Yeah.
when I entered the competition at Red Earth, it was not finished, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. And there was things that I wanted to do to it that didn't have time for, and there are things in it now that, like I said, happened accidentally, you know.
after the fact. But you know, I'm thankful to the judges who saw. I don't know whether it was potential, but thank you anyway. I think when you first see the painting, people are drawn to the image of the face and the headdress and the eagles, and I'm just thankful that they didn't see the bottom part of it.
And how about this painting, Gary?
This painting was a painting of, it could either be a Sioux or a Cheyenne, but it was a Western Plains tribe, and chasing a white buffalo, and what the white buffalo meant to you know, the Plains Indians, and this big medicine. I don't know exactly how you would describe it, but it held, you know, the white buffalo held high esteem to, you know, the Native American plains tribes. And a lot of people ask me why I, you know, portrayed him as, you know, just, you know, not actually pursuing the white buffalo, but he's actually trying to, you know, portray. I mean, what I tried to portray was the actual the reverence he had for the white buffalo and the spirituality of that beast, so to speak, you know, and what it would mean to him. But he also hated to kill it, you know. So that's what I was trying to portray.
That's very nice. And this one is done also with acrylics, but looks almost like a watercolor because of...
Yeah, it was done in acrylic, and it was thinned with water, and I guess you could call it watercolor. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
On paper. Well, all right. Well, thank you very much, Gary. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, and appreciate you thinking of it when you were letting me do this for you. I mean, doing this for me, or whichever.
It was an honor. We wanted to come back and add, give Gary an opportunity to talk a little bit about this painting here.
One of my favorite artists is a Cowboy Artists Association member. He's now deceased. His name was Frank McCarthy, and he don't know it, and probably never will know it now. But like I said, he was one of my favorite artists, and a lot of the images that I portray has to do with horses, and he painted you know, the horse as well as anybody. As a matter of fact, I think he was a master at you know, horse anatomy, and his work as far as you know, painting the Native American on horseback, and I just loved his work. And he was probably one of the most influential artists that I've ever, you know, never got to meet him, but I'm glad he was there.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, this is one of the images that I painted to, I'm not going to say emulate, but that looked like one of the images McCarthy would paint. But
Those action.
Yeah, I know it doesn't come close, but
Inspired by him.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gary.